In this video, we are going to see how to create the service stack for my database tables. We'll see how in a matter of minutes, we'll be able to have a service running over the web that can be used to expose the database tables and perform the read, write operations on the tables. So we'll be using the latest Microsoft tools out there, and we'll also be using its OData protocol. So let's get started. This is Visual Studio 2013. I'm first creating a class library project, a DLL project. This will contain all the C# definitions for my database tables. So it comes with a blank file, the class 1 file, which we'll just delete. And now we're going to use a tool to generate all the mappings that we need for our database tables. And we'll go click on add new item, and we hit this tool, edu.net entity data model 2. We hit add, and it asks me whether I want to generate the models from the database or create a new model. Since I'm doing the database first approach here, I have the first option selected. I hit next. Now I need to provide it the details of the database. So I have a local instance of SQL Express, and the database one is the database I'm going to use. I hit OK. It automatically creates a connection string, and it will store it in the config file for this class library project. It also creates a context here. And now it asks me for the version of entity framework to use. I'll select the default, the latest one. It gives me the option to choose the tables that I want to create mappings for. I select a bunch of tables and hit finish. So now it's doing a lot of things. It's creating the entity framework references, and then it's creating the model files for my database tables. So once it is done, there you go. The model files are created. The designer kind of shows the relationship between the tables. What's even better, using ST4 templates, is created the POCOs, or the C# class definitions or mappings for my table, for all the tables that are there in that database. So this is an airline table. This is the one I will be focusing on. It's got a collection of flight leg objects and its child objects. So it also handles parent-child relationships. And similarly, we have the POCOs created for all the different database tables. So now that we are ready with this, we'll go ahead and create a web project. We'll select web on the left and say ASP.NET web application, and we hit OK. We'll create a web API project this time, and this will just create those services in the form of controllers that will be returning the data that we need in the form of JSON or other formats. So I hit OK. It's now creating my web application. In this project, there's a little bit more work to do. So we'll start by creating a reference to entity framework. We'll use the NuGet package manager for that. So I right clicked on references and hit manage NuGet packages. So now I wanted to search online for entity framework. There you go. I hit install. So it's just installing entity framework for this project. It's done now. And we are going to use the OData protocol, which is pretty powerful in terms of how easy it is to create the service with just a few lines of code that will give support a lot of things like filtering, sorting on the database. So we to create the OData, I'm going to use a package that is already there, which gives me some base classes just to make my life easier. So we're going to look for those OData packages. This is the one I'm interested in, Microsoft ASP.NET Web API 2 OData. So I hit install here, and it will also install all the dependent assemblies as well. So now that this is done, we have all the references in place. One more thing I need to do here is when I created those model files, those POCOs, the connection string was created and added to the app.config for the class library project. We'll just take it and copy it over to our web.config for our web project. Now that's done, and if you're familiar with Web API or MVC type of controllers, we have to make some route entries. So I just expanded app start folder, and within that the route entries are in Web API config. So I hit this one, and I'm going to make some entries for OData. I've already typed that out, so I'll just paste it here, but it's just 3 or 4 lines of code. And I still haven't referenced my other project, my library project within this web project, so I'll just do that right now. So that's done, so it will recognize class library 8. So I just created the OData route entry with the tables that I'm interested in, that it should expose. And the next step is to create the controller itself. So there are already some controllers created by the wizard when I created this web application. I'm not so much interested in them. So I just hit add new controller. I start with an empty controller, and by convention, since I'm interested in the table airline, I'll use the plural of that, airlines controller. Just added it. It derives from controller, but I'm gonna make it better by making it derive from entity set controller. Now this has got a lot of code already written behind the scenes. The entity set controller provides the basic thread operations, read, write, read, create, delete, update operations. So it's really easy to use it directly instead of writing all the code myself. So I'll use that. Just putting in the right using statements, taking the Visual Studio suggestions here. So there you go. This controller is almost ready. I'm gonna put my the database context that will be used by the methods. So that was already created by the wizard when I was doing the first project. So I'll just use it here. I'll just initialize it, and we are going to override the get function here. It's of type iQueryable. The benefit of using OData is that it makes the data of type iQueryable. You can do a lot of filtering and sorting on the data that it returns. So I'm just saying return entries from this airlines, and I also have to support this all the queryable aspects of this controller. I also have to give this attribute to it. So I think that's pretty much it. I think we can compile and test it right away. I'm going to set the web application as the starter project, and let's hit debug and see what happens. So it built successfully. We are just waiting for the first page to load on my browser. The default page loads up, and to access the OData stuff in there, we just do /OData. There you go, it lists the tables. If I'm interested in more details about all the tables that have been defined, I can just do $metadata, and it gives me all the tables with their columns and everything. And when I go to my airlines controller, just have to type airlines, and now it shows me the one entry that I had made. It returns the data back from the database. And like I mentioned, there's a lot of filtering that I can do using OData. Just as an example, as a query string parameter, I can just pass filter me columns, rows whose name column starts with name 1. So it returns me 1. If I just change it to something else, it will just filter that one out. So similarly, there are a lot of different OData filtering and other query string parameters that we can use. So it took me about 10 or 12 minutes right here to create, to have all the POCOs and all the web API work needed to have a service ready. The service is now ready to be deployed, and it can be consumed directly with the browser, or the more practical usage would be the web applications, which will actually reference these services for all the data that it needs.